Hello, my name is Woody. This is Change in the House of Pods, a podcast about Deftones. Today, I'm proud to share my conversation with Ming Cheng, Chi's brother, who's going to recount some of his earliest memories of Deftones, stories about tossing a TV out of a hotel room window, a version of Adrenaline with 3 extra tracks, and being at the show that eventually led to Deftones getting signed. All told with Ming's mischievous charm. You know, one more thing stands out when I reflect on this conversation, namely, Ming's deep connection and affection for his brother. And the feeling that I have a little more of a connection with him now, too. And for that, I just have to say I am extremely grateful. This is Ming Cheng on Change in the House of Pods.
What's up, son?
What's up, man? Thank you so much for coming to do this, man. I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. This is, it's a pleasure to meet you. And
look, I'm in my women's pajamas.
Like a real G. I love it.
Yeah, well, usually I'm buck naked, the porn star, but
hey, we can let listeners pretend. We'll let them think the only thing you got on is
hey, we don't have to pretend. You just need to put the video up like we've been talking about.
Yeah, I know. One of these days I'm gonna get to that. One of these days I really am.
Where
or
you
at least
at?
get some audios on it. Say it again.
Where you at? Where do you
I'm in
live?
Minneapolis. Yeah, I live in Minneapolis. Well, a suburb of Minneapolis. I'm in Eagan. It's I'm about 5 minutes away from the Mall of America, which is our big tourist attraction. If you're
What about First Avenue? Is that still a place?
First Ave is still a place. Yeah, I was there a couple weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
I was there with Deftones in '98. I remember the stage was very short.
You remember it being a short stage? Where was it the main room, or were you in the
It was the one on the corner. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time.
Yeah, that's the 7th Street entry. That's like the small room where it is. It's like the stage is probably shin high.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we had a barricade, but it still looked kind of weird.
That's crazy to think about. Them playing the smaller room. They had to have played the main room.
I don't know about
in '98.
It was the Around the Fur tour.
It was. That
So
was
you got to figure probably only packing in maybe 500 or more or less.
Well, it's definitely too much for that tiny room. I mean, that tiny room is.
I just remember. Yeah, maybe they didn't have much of a draw on in Minneapolis at the time. I don't know.
Well, they were certainly beating the hell out of Minneapolis around '98. I think there was probably 3 or 4 stops at that time. Are you sure you're not thinking about like earlier, like 96, 95?
I wasn't with them then.
You weren't? Okay. Well, I'm excited to talk to you, man. Let's jump into it. When do you recall first hearing about Deftones?
I had not heard of them. I probably will tell some of the same stories I've told on other podcasts, but I think that's probably par for the course. I put a flyer at a community college. It said bassist seeking band, blah, 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 influences, Death Angel, Testament. And for some reason I said Damn Yankees because I like solos. But Stefan responded. He came over on his BMX bike with a Jackson guitar. And he had to have lived 5 to 10 miles away. He did not play the guitar. He put their cassette in, and when I listen back to it now, I get it. But at the time, I was just thinking, this isn't thrashy enough for me, or I didn't like Chino's voice. It wasn't what it is now. I mean, they were kids. I mean, and I'm sure Chino was a teenager. So, yeah, my brother got the gig. So, and in reality, I mean, I do tell that story a lot, but I don't think I'm good enough on the bass that I could have pulled it off like my brother, you know?
Was he actively shopping for a band at that point in time? Or was this just you like saying, hey, you should do this?
he was never active about shopping for a band. He would just play with whoever was around. I was active as far as building bands and that kind of stuff, but they already had been around since 88, and we're talking about probably 90 to 91 when my brother and I were living together and going to Sac State. So,
And
you know, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Even their original bass player. So the original drummer is Abe. Abe went to a band called Fallacy. Dominic Garcia moved to drums, and then my brother joined. And Dominic, to this day, he probably can play, I don't know, 50 to 100 instruments. But, you know, he was even an influence on my brother Dominic was, as far as like, you know, Primus was just coming out. Well, when I say just coming out, they'd been around. But, you know, on bass, you didn't hear a lot of guys doing the chords and stuff like that. And, you know, so when Dominic showed him the old songs, he was doing bass chords. But my brother was always a bass player. But yeah, he was always a real bass player. So, you know, when I play bass, I play it like a guitar with a pick. And, you know, I'm more of a Jason Newsted, and was more like a Cliff Burton, a real bass player.
And he just jumped right in on the strength of you, like sending Steph to him.
No, I think Steph probably left the tape, and he didn't have anything better going on, is what I think.
That rules.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's so fun to think about. And what do you remember after that, as far as like what was going on with Deftones? Like how things progressed from there?
Well, you would think that I would have been at a lot of band rehearsals, but not. All right, what was the question? Sorry.
So like you tell Steph like, hey, maybe my brother is the right guy for you, and then like what happens next? What do you remember? And like from your point of view, not necessarily like in the story of the band, but just from your recollection of like, oh wow, you're still talking to these dudes, or you know what I mean? What do you recall about that next step for them?
Um, I just think Steph left the cassette. He started playing with them, probably in Steph's garage. Dominic was on drums. That went on for a little while. Then they got a drummer named John Taylor. And there's a cable access show you can watch on, I forget what the name of the show is. The hostess is pretty silly.
Like Sacramento's Scene or something like.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's John Taylor on drums. And he's a great drummer. So, I mean, a band like Papa Roach, you know, they're from Vacaville, which is real close to Sacramento. They basically took the Deftones blueprint and said, okay, well, this worked for them. Let's try this, which is, you know, go out and play 100, 200 shows locally, build a local following, you know, because they always had a great live show. So, you know, it wasn't the old school of where people, you know, think, oh, I got to move to San Francisco or LA or New York to make it. They made the labels come to them. And yeah, I'm probably fast forwarding past your questions.
No, that's okay. No, that's cool. That's fine. So basically they just started playing a lot.
Yeah, they had already been playing, but and and I would just see him in passing. I wouldn't go to all their shows, and you know, I thought they were good, but you know, there were other bands like Far that I thought, you know, they're just as good. You know, Far never sold no records, but they were good at the time. Tin Fed, who opened for Deftones on the Around the Fur tour, they were pretty good. The Cake is catchy. So for a little while, the Sacramento scene just seemed like, wow, maybe a next Seattle, but it didn't take off like that. And you know, in the whole grand picture of things, I mean, I don't think people consider Deftones a new metal band anymore, but if they are, it's just between them and Korn as being the godfathers, you
Yeah,
know.
totally.
But I mean, Woody, my mom's at the door. Guess what she said, Woody?
What's that?
Can I please watch my language?
Oh,
That's so funny.
fantastic. That rules. So, they're playing around town. Had she played like shows before?
Uh, no. We played one show in. No, I don't think so. We played one show in high school. No, I don't think so. Now that you mention it. So really, that was like his first real band. We had a high school band, but that was mostly covers. And that's weird that you asked that because I never would have considered that that was his first band.
So really, like taking the stage with Deftones was his first go at being a real musician.
Yeah, but I mean, we had already been playing, and but even after the point of um, him getting in the Deftones, like, you know, we're both half Chinese, so rhythmically we're impaired, can't drive for shit. And fucking, there was a point where I was like, I saw them starting to take off and I gave them a metronome. I was like, you're going to want to practice with this, bro.
Word.
You know? Yeah. But I mean, that was once, like I'm saying, once they got out on the Northern California, I'm not going to call it a circuit. It's not a circuit, but playing around within a 50 to 100 mile radius and eventually getting down to play with Korn and um, the LA scene. I mean, I was there when they got spotted by, I forget what they call these guys that are just spotters for labels. They're not A&R dudes. They're just the guys that bring the band to the A&R guys' attention, and they usually don't get shit. But it was at the Coconut Teaser. I remember they played a great set. Nobody was there. We were by the beer refrigerators, and I don't know if they were locked or I was scared to reach in and get a beer, which I'm usually never scared about. But, yeah, playing LA, yeah, I mean, I had a band in LA and, you know, it it is what it is. I mean, there's usually nobody there if you're not going to pay to play.
You said what was the name of the spot? The coconut chase? What
Coconut,
was it?
the Coconut Teaser.
Coconut teaser. And that's where they were spotted by
Some guy.
whomever.
What's that?
Was it somebody from Maverick?
No, he was more like a guy that would bring them to Guy Siri or Maverick.
Word.
Yeah, and I know pretty much for a fact that he never got shit. Last time I seen him, was like, "Hey man, can you think you get a jacket?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
Because it is sort of their, I guess for lack of a better word, discovery is sort of shrouded in some mystery. It seems like there are some conflicting tales out there. One that caught a little bit of steam recently was Chino talking about how Madonna spotted them or found them, and so that narrative has been run with.
That's not true though.
I don't believe it for a second. And when I talked to
What
Ross, he
says is
said,
fucking bullshit. Anytime Chino's lips are moving, bullshit's coming out and lies. Take that to the bank, Chino.
"That rules. That rules." I mean, it's a sexy story to say that Madonna discovered you, and it doesn't. It's not too much of a stretch of the imagination, I guess, for the layperson who's like, "Oh, well, that was her label." But yeah, that's not. It
Why
doesn't.
does why doesn't he say that she sucked his cock too? That's the part I put in. Suspect my car.
Survey says that's a lie. That's but that's super fun to like think about their courtship, because there were a
Yeah.
number of labels that were ultimately after them, right?
I'll tell you a story that I haven't told on a podcast before, but Dave Park, who was on your show, The Grinder, who we have a contentious relationship, if any. But anyway, at the time, he had a one paragraph contract, and all it said was, "If I get your band signed, I get $10,000." And then I'll leave Dave Park out of this, or it could go sideways. But
Fair enough.
anyway, so they were getting courted by Roadrunner and Metal Blade, and the deal from both labels was $100,000. And I'm like, I I had studied music producing in the music industry already, and I'm like, a good producer's $100,000, and like, I've had a blessed life and a tragic life, but my dad was like a world-class cardiologist. So for the majority of my life, we've been pretty well off. He had socked away some money for us to have a college fund. Each one of the kids, there was 9 of us, 3 or 12 if you count my half brothers. But I asked him, I was like, hey, this Dave Park guy wants to take a fucking shitty deal. And, so between 3 brothers, we had $120,000 for school funding. And none of us were really going that much. And so I said, hey, can we take this money and at least pretend we can have it to make Dave Park have some leverage, and that way, if we wanted to, we could put out our own, make our own label and put it out. And if you know what a label deal is, it's a shit deal, But anyway, I mean, indie labels weren't big back then, but anyway. So long story short, or short story long. Once I told Dave Park that, he held out. He wanted that $10,000, and he wanted to sign with Metal Blade or Roadrunner. I'm like, they're just going to get buried. I mean, Sepultura is kind of big, but I was just thinking, there's not a lot of big bands on Metal Blade and Roadrunner. There are now, kind of, but they're not They're not Deftones big. They're not Madonna Maverick big. Yeah. You don't get the big push, the big tour support. So, yeah, then it goes on to Maverick.
Wow. How much longer was it between you coming to the table with the college fund, between that and then eventually Maverick comes along? Do you recall?
If I have to guess, I would say not that long, 3 to 6 months.
Wow.
I mean, I remember I was kind of drunk when I was talking to my dad, and he was a stern Chinese guy. He didn't like us playing music. We thought we were idiots, which I'm sure is true. But I was like, a little tipsy, and I'm like, no, dude, these guys got it. They got it going on, and they're going to do it their own way. And I'm just asking for help. And he was willing to do it. Wow. And, I would have loved to have heard that record,
Yeah.
And this was back when people bought albums. I could have been part owner of Sacramento's Sub Pop.
Dude, how cool would that have been? And
yeah,
it certainly makes one wonder, I mean, at every turn there are different things that change the story, or that could have changed the story a little bit. But it's really fun to imagine, and it's really just cool to hear about that. That sort of intervening fate coming in to just nudge them in the other direction a little bit. Like that's so cool. It's also really cool to hear you talk about the just hearing the confidence that you had in them. At what point did it occur to you, or did it like come to a realization like my brother's in a pretty good band? Like was at what point did you go like, wow, this is for real?
I think pretty early on, but when I was trying to live my own rock star dream in LA and they were in Sacramento, our band would come see them play at the local venues. And that was back when Abe was back in the band. And the funny story is, you know, I remember them playing some shithole, and I remember Abe taking his cymbals off one night, talking to some lackey or just some person, some pigeon, I don't know what they call him. But he's like, "Yeah, my real band is Fallacy." And I'm looking at him like, what the fuck are you talking about, Abe? If you don't see the writing on the wall. So by the time I had moved from Sacramento to LA, I saw the growth pattern. So we came up and did one show with my band came up and did one show with Deftones, and of course probably borrowed their gear, except I brought my own Ampeg stack because I'm spoiled. But yeah, I mean, I seen it pretty early on, but then the songs started getting better. The live show was always great, but I mean, they have one song. I wish they would redo it in the new Deftones fashion, but the chorus is something, and he would never sing something cheesy like this. Well, I know that you hate me. Well, that's okay because I hate you too. It's called Quirk. But like anyone that knows Deftones, I'm friends with Dave Buckner from Papa Roach. He lives up here a couple miles away, and and apparently my brother, who's rest in peace, had given him a copy of Adrenaline with 3 extra songs on them, and Quirk was one of them. And I fucking have never heard it, and I would love to hear it. If anyone's got a copy, I doubt we'll ever hear it. But it was just a heavy 2-chord song. So, but
What?
well, it's kind of like, if you go back to some of the early footage of the Deftones, there's too many eyeballs, there's too many freaks, there's too many people staring at me. Have you ever heard that one?
Yeah,
Like they're not going to go back to that sound, but Quirk, they could redo it. It's so heavy. I mean,
that's so cool. And it's really a trip to think about a copy of Adrenaline floating around with 3 extra songs.
yeah, but it was also the two from the soundtracks, Teething and whatever the other one is.
Oh,
Teething,
word.
Can't Even Breathe, which is one song that, you know, whenever I was with them, they could never figure it out, like how to play it, or they just knew they were going to fuck it up. It's not that hard of a song.
That's super funny. God, that's super cool. Wow. What a trip. I'm processing that a little bit, like processing that there's I mean, I guess it's not too far outside of the realm of the imagination to think like there are Deftones tracks that I've never heard before, but
You know how much money those fucking demos are worth now? It's unbelievable, dude. All my shit got stolen or borrowed.
borrowed. Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen
500 bucks on eBay if you can find them or more.
yeah, yeah.
I saw the Far demo going for 500. I didn't buy it.
That's super funny. Yeah, that's wow. What a trip. What a trip. So then they get signed. At what point did you jump on board and start working with them?
It wasn't until Around the Fur. I only toured with them on Around the Fur and briefly on White Pony, and got fired twice due to my alcoholic tendencies, which I fully deserved, and I take credit for that. So they did Adrenaline. and I was working at Tower Magazines with my buddy, and they took him out, and I think he got like $5 a day. But I was thinking to myself, this guy don't know shit about guitars or how to plug shit in. Why are they taking him? But I was drinking every day, and you know, not causing fights, but I'm that guy. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, when I drink, I turn into Godzilla. I'm like 30 feet tall, but I knew if I cleaned up my act, they would take me out. So just by coincidence, I moved to Kauai with a girlfriend that was supporting me. And I was like, well, if I can't stop drinking here, I'm not going to be able to anywhere. So I quit drinking. I felt like it was a year and a half. That may not be the truth, but I came back, started playing with the band, and they knew I was sober. The band did. So they were willing to take me out on around the fur. And then Chino blew the whole thing the day the album dropped, because we'd already been touring on it. And he was like, well, just drink with me this one day. And I was like, okay. And that turned into everyday drinking. But I never drank on the job, but it was days off and shenanigans on the bus that got me in trouble, and just not being a jackass.
All right. I know you got a good shenanigan story. I know you got a fun a fun time on the bus, a fun tour, a jackass story. I'm sure there's got to at least be one that isn't just totally embarrassing, but it's pretty fun.
I have the TV story. I don't know if I've told it before. You know how rock stars always drop TVs, right?
For sure, like out the hotel room window sort of a thing.
Yeah. So we were on the Around the Fur tour. We were on our tour manager's suite. I don't know why you got a suite. Probably so we could all do cocaine and fucking drink beer there. So we may or may not have been doing what I just mentioned. And then Chino, Abe, and Stefan were all on the couch. And I had already glanced out of the balcony, and I saw the lobby area had like a subroof. So I knew if I dropped the TV, it wasn't going to kill somebody. So I grabbed the TV, pulled it out of those old school things they used to put them in, like a small armoire, and it was still plugged in with the cable and the AC. And both Chino and Abe are shaking their heads, no, no. And Stefan's nodding, yes, yes. So I just ripped it out of the wall, went to the balcony, threw it, and I said, listen to this. And dude, it was like a fucking bomb dropping, because that's back when they had tubes in the TVs. They were big. It even woke my brother up, and that guy's hard to wake up, but he wasn't even in the room. he was the good married guy. The good married guys, and then there's rock stars.
Oh my God. That is so funny. I love the I love the image of the other guys shaking their head over Steph going, yes. That's so funny.
And it was $400, and Steph paid for half of it.
Did he?
And
Nice. That's solid.
I remember walking out of the hotel room towards the bus, and Chino was coming into the lobby, and he's like, "You're lucky yesterday was Thanksgiving, motherfucker." But yeah, I mean, I don't mind telling stories, but I try not to throw anyone under the bus except myself. But I talk a little shit here and there. I may or may not have Tourette's, so I'm not trying to piss the band off by saying Chino couldn't sing, or fucking he thought he was in fallacy when he was already in the real band.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's fair to to tell your story, and it's real, you know what I mean? And it's not like Chino isn't Chino now, and Abe is, I mean, they were kids. They were kids. You guys were kids. It's really fun to just sort of travel back in time and go to that place Because
Hey, I'm gonna flip the script on you, but have you heard the new crosses?
yes,
Have you seen footage of Chino with crosses?
yes,
My God, doesn't that kid look good? He
yeah,
looks like he quit drinking.
I think he
Last time I
did.
did, is that what happened?
I'm pretty sure he quit maybe a year ago or 18 months. It's been the past couple years.
Oh, I didn't know that. Huh.
I think, and this is, I suspect, but social media was not kind to them during the Grammys. Um, like I think Chino was a little heavy, and after that, it seemed like he was a rail again. Like I think people were,
Until Saturday Night Wrist,
yeah.
when fucking he had that enormous pumpkin head inside of a fucking space helmet. There's a hole in the earth. Somebody give me a meatball.
Oh, that's fucked up, but that's real. I always assumed too that, and we don't have to venture down that road at all, but I always thought too that weight gain was as a result of him getting off drugs.
Yeah, possibly. I think it was just a lot of alcohol. You might be right. No, no
Yeah,
comment.
whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's all good. It's great to see though, and it's cool that you've caught it too. Like he looks good, sounds good. I think all of that, and he's been like creating prolifically. Like I think all of that bodes well for Deftones.
He's like a junior Mike Patton. Mike Patton's way more prolific, but he has done a lot of side projects. I don't care for any of them really, except for Crosses. I haven't heard the new shit. I heard one song. I was like, whatever. But you know, I would go see him if they played down the street.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. When was the last time you caught a Deftones show?
Jeez, it's been so long. I live in Idaho. It was when they came to Idaho and they had the guitar player Darren Malkin, his side band Scars on Broadway opening up. It was a place called now it's the Knitting Factory, which I believe is a chain. And fuck, I don't have any idea how long it's been. I mean, I think that's the last time I seen them, and they were great. Um, I mean, even when Chino is having a bad night, they're still better than almost every other band, you know, because they bring the energy. It's not the same set every night. I mean, maybe now, I don't know. I mean, they generally, at least when I was with them, would make the set right before they went on stage. But now I know because people are bitching, they want deep cuts that, you know, when you become a band with a catalog like that, people want to hear the hits, and it is what it is. But you know, if I had to pick their set list, I'm sure it would be very different from what it is.
What do you have a favorite Deftones song?
Around for, I love the fact that it starts out with that killer drum beat. I like songs about girls and vials of cocaine and shit like that.
That's so cool. It's a lot of people's favorite album. I
It's
think,
Chino's favorite album and mine.
yeah,
Yeah, but if you look at Terry Date's production from Adrenaline to Around the Fur to White Pony, White Pony is a huge gap. I mean, I wasn't there when they recorded Adrenaline, but I'm pretty sure because when I record, I don't wear headphones. I can't hear properly. I don't have, well, maybe I have hearing damage, but it just sounds weird to me. But when Chino cut Adrenaline, I'm pretty sure he just used like a 57 or a 58 microphone, which is standard in the industry for guitars, vocals, snare drums, and a monitor, and just sang most of it live. But if yeah, the production gets a lot better. A lot of people bash Saturday Night Wrist, especially the band, but I think that's a good record. I like The only one, well, the only one I don't get is the self-titled one. Minerva's a great song, and there's probably a couple other ones, but for me, maybe it's not poppy enough. Maybe I love pop. I mean, Beware the Water, that to me that's pop. Minerva, that's pop, but pray, pray, worship, pray, pray. I don't get it.
That's great. That rules. Were you around for any of the recording of Around the Fur or no?
No, no. They did it all out of town. And, I guess everyone's got their own lives, and I was doing whatever I was doing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious about Chi and how he wrote and his creation. Like it's so, you know, here we are, this many albums, and on the third bass player, there's just something so special about Chi and his playing and hearing him on the records. It's singular. It's and not to take away from Sergio, and I'm certainly excited to hear what Fred's going to contribute.
Oh, wait, are you assuming Fred's going to play bass on the album?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident he is. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Maybe they'll get Robert Trujillo.
No, I'm pretty sure. But it's still and people talk about it. I think people talk about, well, my favorite stuff is the stuff that Chi's on. And I don't think it's just nostalgia or like some sentimental thing. I think it's because he was really good. you know
Right. There was a certain, I always thought he sucked just like me. And with Adrenaline, I was like, well, whatever. But once Around the Pony came up and he was playing a fretless and wrote the bass line to like Summer, I was like, wow, that's something that I, never would have thought of. So his process a lot of the times was to take the, demos and take a joyride in the rental car, hear the bass line in his head, and come back and do it. And I know I've mentioned that before, and I know Rob Zombie does the same thing, but I think it's pretty smart because, and much to, I believe the word is Stefan's chagrin. I'm not sure if I'm using that word properly. Maybe didn't like to follow along, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with Cliff Burton and Jason Newsted's those names.
Oh yeah.
Are you? Okay, so to me, my brother's Cliff Burton and Serge is Jason Newsted, and I thought, hey, obviously you're super biased by not liking the new stuff as much as the old stuff. There's some people that like the new stuff more, and I think they're younger kids, and I think some of the old school fans are like, wow, why don't they do a White Pony or Around the Fur again? I think Diamond Eyes is a pretty solid record, if not two-dimensional in a way. I think Noi Koyo Can is pretty solid, doesn't really get me off. Gore I thought sucked until I came back and heard it, and I was like, oh, it's not bad, considering Stefan didn't write shit for it except for Phantom Bride. And then Ohms, uh, no comments.
Oh really? Oh, I love Ohms. That's funny.
That's what I hear, and but it's like when people say, "Oh, I love the Melvins," it's like I get them musically, but Buzz Osborne's voice sucks balls. But I guarantee you, I'll probably come. I'll probably think the next Deftones record sucks, and I'll go back to listen to Ohms and say, "Oh, it's not bad." But I mean, I love the single. I think that's great. But I just like simple songs in 4/4 with a hook. I used to think "Be Quiet and Drive" was a terrible song. I was like, "What the fuck did they release this as a single?" But now I hear it and I'm like, fuck, it's beautiful. Such a good pop song. So easy and simple, you know? And I
Can't
guess
believe
that's
you
what
didn't like Be Quiet and Drive. Wow.
I thought it was too pussy. I don't know.
You
People's
really
take.
were that dude. You were like, nah, I need to be in a thrash band. Let's go to town. That's what's up. That's,
Uh, around the time that I passed on Stefan's cassette, I was I remember living with my brother, and he had bought Alice in Chains Facelift, and at the time it came with a VHS. It was them at the Moore Theater. He popped it in, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm doing that detuning thing. That's what I'm doing." And to this day, I still play in drop C sharp just because it accommodates my voice. Well, I can play in drop D, but it accommodates my voice, and it has a certain heaviness guitar wise. I mean, when you listen to Adrenaline, it's hard to imagine that they're in standard tuning because they still make it sound heavy. People always say, "Oh, they were using drop tunings on Adrenaline." It's like, no, they weren't.
that album
But
really is sort of it stands alone in their catalog.
yeah, I just read something on probably Facebook, and there was a set list for Deftones show, and somebody was bitching about how they didn't play any of the songs off Adrenaline. And it's
Yeah.
like, I know they don't want to play Seven Words. I know they don't want to play Bored, Root, you know.
Why?
Well, because how many hundreds of times have they played them? And
Yeah.
When you hear Chino do Seven Words, I don't know what the fuck he's saying during the verses, but it's not what's on the recording, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, there's
but
definitely some liberties taken for sure.
but yeah, part I went and did well early on the Around the Fur tour. We went to. I'm a stagehand and a sound guy by trade, but we were doing a show at the Fillmore, and one of my cronies, this old guy, I didn't really recognize him, but I got his bass amp rack flipped down on the floor. I'm unscrewing shit, and he's like, "Bass tech, huh? Isn't that an oxymoron?" So if you're the bass tech, you're really Frank's tech. You're the stage manager. You're the guy gaffing down cables and all this shit. You're the guy saving Chino's ass from not getting all his clothes torn off in the audience. So, in Seven Words, when he ends with the Ice Cube Wicked part.
Yeah.
Anyway, I go save his ass from the crowd. He gets back on stage, left, my brother's side. I'm still not on stage yet, and he's like singing right to me. 1, 2, 3, and I come with the wicked. True, you act like you knew. It was a good moment.
That's so sick.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to Chino or Abe or Stefan in a couple of years. Um, you know, they've got their lives. I've reached out a little bit, but it's been a long time. Maybe I'll do it today. At least send a text. They will respond via text, and they're usually busy with their lives. But you know, last time I talked to Chino, he was like they hadn't told anyone that Surge was out yet, so that tells you how long it's been. I think I reached out to him and Abe after that, but he was just like, "Buck, tell me stories about your brother. I miss your brother." You know, but yeah. And I don't know whether this Fred Sablon guy is good, but what Chino told me is he was like, "Yeah, we finally got a guy that plays the bass lines like your brother. The hardest part about filling his shoes is those crappy death vocals he did." And when I say crappy, I'm kidding, because he was fucking really the best at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was. And that's one of the I think great things about the touring guitarist that they've added,
Good, right? He's fucking good.
Lance.
Yeah.
Bro. And I talk about it with
And
friends.
can sing, and I think he can do my brother's vocals, but I'm not sure. You
Bro,
tell me.
that's exactly what I was just about to tell you. Like, we've talked about it. I've talked about it with friends. I've talked about it at the show. Like, it's Chi-esque. It like when you hear him do those backing vocals, it's chills, man. It's chills. It's like
Good,
yeah,
because Serge did the best that he could. He got better at it, but it was never the same. Serge could really sing. I know Lance can actually really sing, but I haven't heard or seen any footage of him doing the death vocals, and I'm glad to hear that he can do it.
it's
You know?
really cool. Like it's 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 fun because those songs sound truer to the records now, but also it does have that like sort of nostalgia. It's like, yo, that's like it feels like Chi is here. You know what I mean? Like it's cool. It's really cool.
Why the fuck does he get kicked off stage for half the set though?
I think he runs. I think that's his choice. I think he's like, well, I'm not doing shit, so let me just run off.
I don't think it's his choice.
You think they're telling him like, bro, just get up the stage real quick?
No, Chino told me. Chino told me he's like, yeah, we're bringing on another guitar player so I can focus on singing. And I was like, whatever, but it's obviously worked out. And I would like to see them with Lance and Fred and see,
Yeah,
I think. I mean, I watch a lot of footage and people are always sending it to me. So from what I see, it's pretty good.
that's cool.
But part of me misses Serge. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I mean, if it was Serge and Lance, but maybe Chino's right. Maybe Fred does play the bass lines more like my brother because Summer's a perfect example of the bass line. When Serge played it, he was a little more ahead of the beat or on top of the beat, and he played it with distortion. And I get it. He was doing his own thing, but I don't know. Sometimes, like I love the Counting Crows first record, but when you go see them live, they're lackluster as a band, and the singer changes all the melodies, and he's still good, but no, they fucking sucked. I paid to see them, but to some extent, people want to hear what's on the records. I mean, if you want to change an ending or do a little change, that's cool, but I don't know. I think you should pay tribute to the recordings to some extent, especially if the guy's dead. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. That makes sense. I think it's really also interesting that Chino suggested that we finally got a guy who could play like
No,
Chi.
I believe if I had to guess, it was a Velvet Hammer management thing. It could have been Chino's idea.
Yeah. Well, I know he was referred to them by Wedge. That's how
The
they found
vegetable,
the
the
Wedge.
vegetable, whose kick drum sounds like fucking. Never mind. Never mind, Wedge. Fuck you. Anyway.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that I can name drop somebody like Wedge, and you're like, oh, the vegetable. That rules.
It's the first time I've said it, but the vegetable last I heard was running sound for Ministry, which is a perfect gig for him because he's such a metal front of house guy. I mean, so when he was running sound for Deftones, the kick drum sounded more like Pantera and just not in a good way. I can't stand Benny Paul's kick drum sound. Is A, it's triggered, B, he's got quarters where the beaters hit, and sonically it just don't do it for me. I mean, I like a attack on the kick drum, but I also like a lot of thump and low end.
I love listening to you talk about music. It's really fun hearing the way you describe it. Would you talk about Chi's bass playing?
Sure, I'll talk about his bass playing and his tone. So his influence by, I don't know if Tower Power is one of them, and a lot of reggae. And I'm not a super technical guy as far as theory goes, but I think he played behind the beat. If there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 count, sometimes he would slide to the note right towards the end of the four, I think. I'm guessing, I'm not sure. So when we were on tour, if you're a band and your stage volume is very quiet, that gives the front of house engineer, the sound guy, the chance to really make you shine, so everyone can hear everything. The Deftones were notoriously fucking loud as fuck. So every day, the front of house engineer would come and say, "Okay, let's turn down your brother's bass," and I'd turn down the master volume, and then he'd come on stage for sound check or whatever, and I would dial it in to what I thought was good, and I didn't like turning down, but he would invariably come in, turn up the master volume, and turn up the bass. So his bass tone, and I wouldn't recommend it for a lot of players, not myself either, but like his bass tone the bass was turned up a lot more than say the mids and the highs. It worked for him, and his bass playing, I don't know, he's more like Eric Avery from Jane's Addiction, even though that guy plays with a pick, to where he kind of does his own thing. My brother primarily wasn't a songwriter outside of Rude and maybe a handful of other songs. But as far as his playing, yeah, he sucked. Next.
Oh, that rules. That's so cool.
So what's your favorite Deftones record? And you can't pick what.
There's probably some recency bias, but I really do love Ohms.
I'm gonna give it a chance. Some people swear by it. I'm not sure about the mix though.
Yeah. It's definitely sonically different than it's dirty. It's got like a dirty quality to it. That is, I don't know. It just really appeals to me in that way. It's got something that, whereas like Diamond Eyes, for example, feels super polished and clean. Ohms feels the opposite of that. And it's just got some really fun, different jams, stuff that, I don't know, stands alone.
So your favorite album would be Ohms?
I think it is now. For a long time, it was self-titled, though.
You're breaking up. I can't hear you. I have to hang up now.
For a long time, though, self-titled was probably at the top of the list as well. And that's sort of interesting that you chose that you said that you didn't like that one.
So many people I respect love the Melvins and love that record specifically.
Yeah.
So I know that it's something that I just don't get. And I know if I was to put it on right now, or even Ohms, I'd be like, yeah, better than the average bear.
Yeah.
I know I just have to give it a chance. So the last album I actually had on CD was Diamond Eyes. It was a burned copy, or I could have bought one. I think I got a copy of Gore. I've heard all the records. Almost I've heard the least. It's just the music, the mixes. I don't want to start bitching about their mixes, but I just can't believe, the production from. Well, you say you like the rawness of it.
I do.
So the fact that it sounds kind of dry.
That it's we're talking about Ohms.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of got like a fuzzy quality, like a staticky. It takes me to like this sort of, I don't know, post-apocalyptic sort of I don't know, vibe in some way. There's something that's
I'll give it a chance. because I thought Gore sucked in the beginning, and then I came back to it and I'm like, oh fuck, it's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So self-titled, and I may have said this before on a previous podcast, but I doubt it. But self-titled has that song. What is it? Lucky You.
Yes.
Feeling lucky, and it's him and Ray from Tin Fed, who I can't distinguish their voices, but on Chino's vocals, I could be just imagining it, but it's like I can hear the cocaine in his vocal cords and know the
That's
and,
super funny.
I'll give that between self-titled and Gnomes, I'll give them both a chance because I've heard all the other albums a lot, and yeah, I've heard self-titled quite a bit, but a lot of people that weren't into Deftones, once they made that super big left turn with self-titled, were like, "Oh, this is the shit right here."
Yeah.
And I know that's Stefan's favorite record too. So,
Oh, word.
yeah.
What was Cheese' favorite?
I don't think he had a favorite, but I know he liked self-titled a lot because I was like, "It sucks, bro," and he was like, "No, dude, it's really good." I was like, "Okay, if you say so," but I don't know that he had a. Oh shit! I don't know. Are you still there,
Yeah.
buddy?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that he had a favorite, but I know that he was very proud of all the albums, as far as I remember.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, when I when they did, I think they did Adrenaline. Hold on, I could plug in Bad Animals in Seattle, which is Heart's studio,
Right.
and um, he flew me out there just to check it out. I don't think I heard any of the mixes though. I just remember going by the studio. But I know he was very proud of all the work he did. And like I don't know if you're familiar with Rick Beato.
No.
Oh, he does a podcast. He's got the best guests and he's like a fucking music theory nerd genius. He's like, bro, right here, Steph Chino's hitting a minor seventh and all this shit. Like I'm like, what the fuck? But and then he's got the master tracks isolated so he can for Minerva, so he breaks down the song Minerva. And,
Oh, yes. I think I have seen this guy on YouTube.
and
Yeah.
when he isos the bass just for a second, oh my god, the tone is so fucking good. But he just says, "Let's see what she's doing." Bing. He hits it for like a second, and it just sounds so good. I mean, for me, obviously I'm biased, but it's not going to get better bass tone wise than on say Change. Just the way he's playing, which is kind of slinky, not exactly what the guitar is playing, kind of is what I think. I mean, he's playing the same notes, but he's kind of chopping them a little bit. And just the bass tone on that. I mean, there's a couple records I can think of where I'm like, oh, that's bass tone. That's even they were on maybe it was the Summer Sanitarium tour, and I was already living in Idaho. And I think Jerry Cantrell was on it, Metallica, but Cantrell told his bass player Mike Inez, uh, like, "This is bass tone, dude. This guy's tone." I remember
That's super cool.
my brother telling me on the phone, which I thought was funny. Mike Inez is a great bass player. I remember Serge did an interview where he said, "Yeah, I don't really like bass players that play with their fingers. I like players that play with a pick, and I love the sound of a pick. My brother recorded a couple songs with a pick, but real bass players to me play with their fingers and maybe a pick. I mean, it just gives you a different sound. I guess you can EQ your shit the way you want to.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic, and it's really interesting. I feel like when people pick up on that, when people are like they hear it. I'm like, wow, that's impressive to me. Like that's an intellectual like consumer of music to be able to distinguish between the two, to speak to how it changes the feel of a song, of a bass line.
Right.
But again, like when you hear it, when you go back and you if you listen to, you know, the Sergio records next to the Chi records, it's like, you know, there it is. It's distinguishable. Like you can feel it. It's a different
Right.
player. That's really neat.
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck Serge is doing right now. It looks from the footage with Quicksand, and I know he did it on Gore. It almost looks like he's playing a baritone guitar. I know it's really a bass with 6 strings, is what I think.
Yeah.
But no more comments on that.
Fair
I'm
enough.
learning to edit myself. I just
Good. That's what's up. Yeah, that's cool. Well, I mean, you know, for all intents and purposes, this podcast is really meant to be a celebration, more than anything else. And so
amen, brother.
you know, I that's above all else, I'm just stoked that we got what we got. You know what I mean? If from that,
Oh yeah.
um,
Well, that's why like it's weird because look, my brother's been dead for 10 years now.
yeah,
And you know, up until the last year or so, and even still to some extent, if I say, Alexa, play Deftones Digital Bath, like my mom can't hear it. It's too painful for her.
really,
But for me personally, it's like, look at the legacy. It's a celebration. It's like, you know, just what I was saying about change the baseline or summer the baseline, you know, and even his spoken word shit. I mean, to me, it's genius, and I don't know if I'll ever get around to record or releasing the rest of the live spoken word shit. I have to go through it with my buddy Dave Mompion. He said I never give him any credit for helping me record or recording the spoken word shit because I always call him Fat Dave. So there you go, Dave.
I'll make sure that that's like the social media clip on the podcast so that Dave could get some love. So
Right.
you recorded this? Like this is
Dave did.
Dave recorded it and then
He, my brother had a DAT recorder, which is this stereo, and I think I brought my 4-track as a backup. Have you heard it?
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've listened.
It's so
It's a
good.
kick.
Yeah,
Like it's such a treat to hear the
here
words in
and
his
the
voice,
word,
but also like to get his personality and
right,
how
like
self-deprecating and like
right.
it's just so cool. You know, it's just so cool.
I thought the bamboo parachute sucked because I had that live recording, and then I went back and listened to it. It's like, oh fuck, it's good too.
Yeah.
It's just you get the guy having his coffee first thing in the morning, and then you get the guy that's been drinking beer all day and starts his poem on fire, and somebody says, "Hey, your poem's on fire." Oh shit! Because it was like really dark, and he had some candles on the desk. He was reading.
That's so funny. Your poem's on fire. That's a great name for a poem.
Yeah.
Uh, um, what are you
Hey,
talking?
have you heard of that band, Little Bitch from Nampa, Idaho?
No.
They're fucking heavy as fuck, dude. They're a 2-piece band. The singer plays guitar and bass, and he runs 2 amps, kind of like Royal Blood. One's a guitar rig, one's a bass.
Word.
Yeah,
Cool. And they're called Little Bitch.
you like that name?
It's a good name.
All right, I had to do some self promotion there.
That's badass. That's cool.
I just
Uh,
put the name out there because I think it's fucking funny.
I think it's great. I think it's super good. Um, do you did you ever hear any of the Eros recordings?
Mm, yes, And I don't know that that recording will ever see the light of day. I'm a gambling man by nature. I lost $50,000 in poker lessons, believe it or not. I just got a bank account. It's got $20 in it. But I only remember hearing, fuck, so long ago. I don't know if it was just bass and drums or just bass to a click track, which the click track wasn't audible. I don't think it's ever going to see the light of day, honestly. I wish it would. And I remember, and I don't know if it was Saturday Night Wrist or Arrows, but there was some beat that Abe was playing, and it sounded like he was using a double kick pedal, which I'm pretty sure he can't use. But the beat just sounded, but not in a gay kind of way. Can I say gay? I could say worse word, but my mom told me no. But he was doing so. But from what I've heard, I can't make a comment on it. I haven't heard enough of it. Last time I talked to Chino, and I'm sure it was just lip service, he was like, "Yeah, when we go to finish Arrows, I want you to come out." But I'm sure that'll never happen. But yeah, we were. Little Bitch was recording the other night, and we put on the bamboo parachute. So Pat was on drums, I was on bass or guitar, and then my brother's spoken word. We turned up the stereo. So it had its moments, dude. So
That's super cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I feel like a lot of people want to hear, the last album she made.
I agree, but it's just a matter of musically. I don't think they were up to par. This is, if I had to guess, that's the reason it hasn't come out yet. Musically, they weren't up to par. They don't want to go backwards, but I want to hear the shit. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't love the song Smile, but I don't hate it either. And that's one thing about Frank is like, for me, I'm not talking shit, but Faith No More are one of the few bands that are heavy that pull off keyboards, and it's because the guy doesn't play all the time. So for me, Ohms is a prime example of, whoa, the keyboards are way too fucking loud, you know. But that's just me, It's just a matter of taste. Ohms
Sure.
might be the best record ever, for somebody else.
Yeah. Interesting.
And yeah, I'm not really wanting to say, hey, that can't be your favorite record. That one sucks. It's just everyone's got one. You know what they say about that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's super funny. I um when I talked to Terry Date, he said he was intent on finishing it. When I
Oh,
talked, yes, he said it was
do an
his
interview with
goal.
them? Wait, did you do an interview with them?
I did. I talked to Terry for the previous season. He was the first episode of season 4.
Oh, no idea. I have to listen to that.
He
That
he
poor
was
guy trying to rank up the Deftones.
yeah, and Pantera, like he really picked two bands that defy being wrangled.
Right.
But he said it was his goal to get it as finished as he could and give it to the guys.
Oh,
When I
good. I'm fucking glad to hear that, man. I didn't know how complete it was. Even if they released a 5-song EP off that, that'd be awesome.
It feels to me like it's more of a possibility than I'd imagined that it could have been. When I talked to Sean the first time, he said,
Lopez?
yeah, he suggested that that there were some really, because he was recording vocals with Chino for it, and he said that there was some really great stuff on there, some really like
Well, that's good to hear. That guy's probably like me, where he's pretty picky.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's cool to hear, at least like you want to hear it, they think it's cool, like I feel like that's the conversation that I want to start circulating around ohms or around Eros rather, as opposed to the conversation being like, you know, kind of, who knows if it'll ever see the light of day. I think we have to will it into existence. I think we have to speak it
Well,
into
well,
manifest it ourselves.
the fact that Sean said that, and the fact that Terry said he was working on it, that brings a whole note of positivity to it that I was unaware of.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to take into consideration if it does see the light of day. I don't think it'll be anytime soon. Tones
Right.
is alleged to be working on a new record. She knows out with crosses here and there. And,
Right.
that's a great contingency plan. It's like, well, when I can't scream my head off anymore, I'll do crosses, which is, it has its 80s influence,
Yeah.
and I I have to spin it and see if I like it, but I like most of it from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, he did one record with Drowning Pool, and he's sitting on like 120 songs that he makes on his computer. Most of them suck, and I'm always telling him, it's like, dude, we're 54. Quit screaming. You know how to sing.
Yeah.
You know. And I saw some footage of Chino with crosses, and he was still screaming his head off, like on one song probably. But but they said that about James Hetfield from Metallica. It's like, well, he's only going to be able to do that for so long. But look at them; they're fucking 60 something. They're
Yeah.
fucking still doing it. I'm not saying they sound great, but they don't sound bad. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. I
it's,
mean, to play two shows in a city, to make a whole tour out of playing 2 nights in every
well,
town you're in.
well,
It's
fucking how many artists can do that? Taylor
right.
Swift, Metallica, maybe Ed Sheeran, fucking I don't know, fucking Megan Thee Stallion.
There's not many. There's not many. That's for sure. Something else though that you mentioned.
I was kidding about her. She ain't filling arenas yet.
No,
As
not
far
quite.
as
No, she's got a little ways to go yet. But something that you said about them not looking back, um, that feels very true to me.
yeah.
That they don't do a lot of, I don't know, retrospective, or they haven't dropped a greatest hits. You know what I mean? Like,
What do you think A sides and B sides or whatever that is? B
oh, the
sides
B
and
sides, the
that
rarities. I mean, yeah, I guess there's a couple of there's a
no, you're right. That's not the greatest hits. That's just cool. I love that record.
yeah, but that's something that you are that feels like a truth to you as well, like that they're not going to be to look back. And I'm wondering if that, I don't know, I don't want to say pisses you off, but you
Oh
know
no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, if they're gonna get to it, I feel like they're not gonna get to it till later.
yeah, in keeping it celebratory, what do you like to remember about Chi?
Fuck, the dude was my best friend. I mean, as long as I was alive, he was there. It's 1 year, 2 months, and 5 days. I'm older than him. But, to have a best friend like that, and the only people I can compare are the band. That's why me and Chino will always have that bond, you know. But my brother just, fuck, he was just, I said it at his funeral, but he was the most Christ-like guy I ever met. And that's the definite being a Christian, is to be Christ-like. He never said I'm a Christian, but I don't know. He never told me don't drink. He never told me what to do. And, I'd be a fucking asshole. But, you know, he never, he was probably a pretty tough guy if it came down to it. Never got in a fight. One time I was getting my ass kicked. Some guy had me in a headlock, and this is, maybe seventh or eighth grade. And I didn't even see him coming, but he came and kicked the dude in the face, and it just sounded like kicking a soccer ball. But I don't know. I've got three friends. Of course, none of them live here, but you know, it's it's something special when you have somebody that you could not talk to for 3 months, a year, 2 years, and then you just jump right back to where you were like it was yesterday. And I fucking miss all of it, dude. From, touring to being kids together, having all that familiarity and just knowing each other so well. I mean, when we were little kids, we shared a bedroom, and one night we had the same dream. So, in, you know, and we were kind of psychically linked to some extent. So, I don't know. Yeah, I I miss him, dude. You know, it's like I wish they would have kept his phone on so I could hear, "Hey, this is Chi. Leave a message," and I could just leave him random messages.
Yeah. I'd
But
imagine that mailbox would be pretty full by now.
yeah, exactly. But God bless those buckle up for cheap people. And if my brother's got to be the Jesus Christ of seatbelts and it saves a couple lives, great. You know. And I asked him on two separate occasions why he wasn't wearing his seatbelt, and he gave me some flimsy excuse. So, a lot of geniuses don't make common sense decisions, you know. But yeah, I mean, what was the question? what,
I was asking
what,
what you like to remember about him.
fuck, dude, when I see his son Gabriel, it's uncanny. They look so much alike. Uh, you know, just having a friend that has unconditional love for you, that doesn't tell you what to do. And yeah, I mean, that's rare. And people are always like, oh, I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook. Oh, really? Are they coming over on Saturday at 9 a.m. to help you move? Because those are your real friends. you
Totally.
know, I've
Absolutely.
got I've got three or four friends. I got Pat that plays in Little Bitch, and then I have three friends, and one in South Carolina, two in California, and but you know, f- family to me is like the friends that God wants you to have in this lifetime. So, bye. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, but I've lost three of my brothers now and my pops. So, yeah, I don't ever remember bad times so much as good times. That's why when people say, "Don't you remember this or that?" I'm like, no, I just remember the good times. And I mean, I was a bully when we were younger, and I'd beat up the two younger brothers. But when I see my mom and my aunt fighting about some trivial petty thing, I'm like, that's weird. Me and my brother never did that. And on tour, or even after that, we would always call each other boss, because technically he was my boss. And I'd call him boss, he'd call me boss. But yeah, fuck, there isn't anything I don't miss, you know. So I mean, I would have loved to have seen what he would have done given more time. I think writing would have been key. And even though he was kind of a bitch about touring like around the fur and adrenaline and didn't want to be there, he learned to realize that it was a good gig. You know what I mean? It's not glamorous like people think, but the touring the world is a good gig, because he was on around the fur. He was always like, well, I could always go home and be a teacher right now. And it's like, and they're like, fuck you then, you know? So I don't know. He
Yeah,
was
he
a,
was go ahead.
he was, he's a, I mean, I don't fucking use the word genius very often, but the dude was fucking genius.
It's fun that you bring that up, that he did seem sort of like the reluctant rock star, that he didn't really, I mean, obviously with life on the road is a pain in the butt, but it's fun to think that he eventually sort of made some peace with it, or found, or like you said, just realized that it was a good gig.
Maybe because maybe because his second wife is such a cunt, he liked being away from her.
That'll do it too. And sometimes it's just practical. You just got to get out of the house.
Yeah. Well, touring is a weird thing. Like when you're on tour, you just want to get home. You've heard it. When you're at home, you just want to be on tour. So,
Yeah.
my brother was the kind of guy that like he'd get home and he would enjoy washing dishes because you don't wash dishes on tour. He
Yeah.
probably enjoyed mowing the lawn and doing domestic bullshit. So,
Did he have a favorite non-music hobby? I mean, everybody knows he was a writer and he liked to read. Was there something else like cutting the grass?
well, this one might surprise you, but we were raised around shit tons of guns. So he liked to go to the shooting range. I won't shoot indoors. It's too fucking loud and stupid. The only thing I like to do is clay pigeons, where you pull and try and blast the clay pigeon. But he liked guns. He loved dogs. Um, yeah, I don't know.
That's cool.
There was probably more that I'm unaware of.
It's fun to imagine him as a teacher. And it's cool to think because he lived with Todd for a while, or Todd lived with him, and now
Todd
Todd's a
lived with
teacher.
him. No, Todd and Chino lived with him and didn't pay no rent that I'm aware of. Sorry, Todd or Chino, if I'm mistaken.
Didn't pay rent. That rules. Well, they were all working together in the cafeteria or something there at the school, right?
I worked there too. It was called the Dining Commons, and
Yeah.
we all made pizzas. Chino was a delivery guy. I think my brother was a cook. I was a cook. I don't know if I ever worked with my brother or Chino. They might have already moved on. No, we just had different shifts, I think.
That's
But yeah,
super fun.
every night he took home a pizza. For years after that, I would not eat pizza. I was like, oh no.
That rules. That's super fun.
I mean,
Man,
I get. I probably. I'm not. I know you know this because you're a fan, but reading was big on my brother's list.
yeah.
As far as get into town, go find a bookstore,
Oh
and
wow.
I don't know if you're uh, familiar with the director writer John Waters.
Sure.
Really? Okay, Pink Flamingos, but he's one. His most famous quote is, "If you go into somebody's house and they don't have any books, don't fuck them." And from my experience with girls, and your phone don't count, but if you don't have the patience to read a book, I don't know if I want to fuck you.
That is actually very good advice. I think that is really, really smart. And maybe just to be sure, like check and make sure the spine is cracked. Like make sure that that book isn't just for show. See if any of those pages are dog-eared.
One of my ex-girlfriends, we went to a bookstore in Seattle, and she bought this book, and the bitch never cracked it, and I never seen her read a book, but the last two have been like that. Yeah, yeah. I'm not here to talk about me, but I
Oh
will
my
fuck.
god.
I will take good sex and turn it into a long-term relationship like a fucking idiot. But I'm trying to curb my enthusiasm for that kind of bullshit.
If the band name Little Bitch doesn't work out, the bitch never cracked it is a good it's a good backup.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Or
At
maybe a
least
song title.
I was just gonna say, at least for a song title.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if it becomes our big single? Then you're gonna want credit.
Yeah, I will. Nah, man, I just want tickets to a show, man. I'm good.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like now. I mean, I almost refused to pay for tickets And usually I can sneak in the back door and people are like, what band are you with? And I always say Motorhead and then walk by, you know. But all you got to do to get in a show is wear all black because I think you're a stagehand. Maybe have a crescent wrench on the carabiner and a pair of gloves. There you go, folks.
You're in. That's it.
I'm with the audio crew. And then they'll say the name of the audio crew. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get my laminator sticky or whatever.
Totally gonna flex that the next show I go to. Make sure I
Well,
bring a crescent wrench.
yeah, I think it's funny well, I think it's funny to try and sneak in shows, even if you have a ticket.
That's super fun. Man, this has been a real treat. A real
Yeah,
treat.
likewise.
Thank you for taking the time and for really, I mean, in a lot of ways it feels like you've been the ambassador for your brother's legacy. Obviously the folks at Buckle Up for Chi do their thing, and that's been great. And there isn't a Deftones show that goes by that Chino doesn't acknowledge
That's
Chi
good.
and send a
That's
song out to him. So
right.
um,
I love those guys. As much shit as I talk about everybody, fuck, I love the Deftones. Ah, the Deftones. Even I.
whose idea was it to get rid of the definite article? Who was like, fuck the? Who was the person who was like, we don't need the?
I don't know. I don't know, but I used to have a shirt that said the Deftones that my brother baked in our oven at the apartment. And of course, it got borrowed or stolen.
You know, that shirt's going around again. I just bought a bootleg of
not,
it not too
blue,
long ago.
not the blue one with the circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Grammatically, people always want to say the Deftones, but you would never say the Nine Inch Nails. But with Deftones, it just grammatically seems to make sense.
It does. It has a really it's got a flow that it just sort of wants to be there. It does. And then you've got a bajillion fans that jump up and get offended when you say it. It's not the Deftones. It's like it's chill
I
out, guy.
I only heard it in an interview with Serge one time, and I was like, "What are you doing, dude?"
It's super fun.
But I don't
But
take. I don't suppose you've heard the new Quicksand, have you?
um the new Quicksand, yeah. Actually, I saw Quicksand at a show about a week ago.
Yeah, we brought them out of retirement on the Around the Fur tour, and sonically, because they were a low volume on stage, they were just blowing the tones away every night. And I asked
Word.
this sound guy, "Why is this happening?" Because they're so fucking loud.
Word.
But I want to hear the new Quicksand because Slip is the only record I've heard. I've heard Manic Compression or whatever that one is too, but I think they've gone more in a psychedelic direction. You tell me, have they?
It seems, I don't know, it still sounds like Quicksand. It still feels um I don't know. I guess I haven't checked the last record as heavy as the one just prior to that. Um and then they were touring on the show that I saw. They played Slip in its entirety, so that's still sort of like heavy in my head. I don't know if it's more psychedelic.
Yeah, I'd have to hear it. I'd have to hear it. But we're getting off the subject of Deftones.
Yeah. But
You,
it's appropriate. There
you,
it's
yeah, well, they were definitely an influence.
for
You
sure.
know, you didn't happen to go to their little festival out in San Diego, did you?
I did. I did.
Anyone worth a fuck besides Deftones?
Um I thought that let's see. I was excited about Pinback. The opening bands were probably the ones I was most excited to see, other than Deftones. So, Ryle, who is from Utah, they're heavy. Capra, also super heavy, brought a lot of energy. They've got a female front who she rips. She's great.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, so there were some good bands. I don't think it was um, as top heavy as it's been in the past. I
What do you
feel
mean by
like
top heavy?
Well, like they last year had Turnstile on the bill
Oh,
with them.
big support.
Yeah, big support, right?
Yeah.
Um, the artists that were supporting were all relatively young and new,
Mm.
both 100 Gex and Knocked Loose. And they have really different sounds. So I feel like the Knocked Loose fans weren't so stoked on 100 Gex.
Yeah.
But they were fun. It was still a fun show, and the festival is so well done. It's just
Is it?
really, it's
Uh,
really thoughtful.
okay, maybe I'll go next year,
You
or
should.
I go at least in my lifetime.
Yeah,
You know,
it's. I mean, it's San Diego in the first weekend of November, so the weather's
but it's
perfect.
yeah.
It's like for a lot of reasons other than the show, the festival is just a really great experience. Um, so yeah, and from what I have heard and seen, it's sort of like a Sacramento family reunion
Oh, yeah.
up there. So I'm sure you'd see plenty of familiar faces.
I gotta ask, fucking, because I'm always curious because I don't buy tickets that often. How much was the ticket?
Well, I bought VIP.
Of course you
Uh,
did, you little girl.
I had to spend the money for it,
Bad
and
boy out.
it's my Super Bowl, so I had to spring for it. But the VIP experience was $500.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So what do you get for being a VIP? You get your dick autographed or what?
That was last year. This year we
Uh,
got some cool posters. Actually, they gave us they mailed us the posters.
but it's a meet and greet or not?
They do not do the meet and greet. They stopped doing the meet and greets after COVID.
Little bitches too. Fucking, you can't charge $500 to do a meet and greet.
Well, I'll tell you what, I I won a meet and greet. I think it was in 2019, the second year that they did it. And
Mhm.
I missed probably three or four bands waiting in line to meet the guys. Um, so I didn't hate not getting the meet and greet. Like obviously it would be cool to get the photo opportunity and everything. That's great. But the VIP area, you get your own little area.
Yeah, that's cool.
They got the complimentary food. They had tacos, delicious tacos. I mean, San Diego tacos
Right.
in the VIP area. So they treated us pretty well. I'm certainly not complaining. Like I would probably, if I had it again to spend tomorrow, I would do the same thing. It was definitely worth the actually I should probably lie so that nobody else buys the ticket now. It's going to sell out again. The VIP sucks. Don't get it. Get a GA ticket so I
I'm,
could get it.
I'm just curious how much a GA would be. I would guess $100.
Yeah, I think it was like I think it was somewhere between 80 and 100. I want to
Yeah.
say it was somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, they pimped us out with all sorts of patches, and they gave um everybody in VIP a disposable camera that
Oh,
had
really?
also been uh like outfitted with the imagery from the show. So like this
Oh, yeah.
on the disposable camera itself. And then on the back of this card is this message that said to our exclusive VIP ticket holders. And then they list all the things that the hat, the tote bag, the incense. And then they said, we'd love to see your photos that you take today on these Dia de los Deftones cameras. And post them. And I just thought this was such a thoughtful, like these little touches that they have
Right.
for not just VIP holders, but like for every concert goer. That day is really, really cool. Like, um, obviously the ofrenda, where you can leave a picture of your loved one, was like, and Chi is very much at the forefront. You know what I mean?
Right.
There in the ofrenda, and then they had like it was like a glory hole for tattoos. Like you could stick your arm in a hole and get a mystery tattoo. It was a little
That's
removable but all sorts of stuff like that. You know what I mean? Low riders. It's
oh
all
that
like,
so they're going for more of a different thing, kind of like Lollapalooza used to be with the Jim Rose side show and all that.
Yeah,
And
it's
and you know, if I had to go to a show and I started out as a promoter, I don't want to see an all punk show. I want to see a metal band, punk band, a rapper, you know, some hip hop,
totally.
and you know, maybe a folk singer. So, I mean, I think that's kind of cool if they're mixing it up. I did see a couple of years ago, Megan the Stallion
Yeah.
was was on it, and I between her and Cardi B, I don't really dig all that nasty shit that they say, but I can't believe I'm saying this, but we were watching something on YouTube and Megan Thee Stallion was on. It was one of her videos, and I was like, ah, fuck, this ain't bad.
She is. She was great. It was a great performance too. Like her show, her set at Dia that year was really, it was rad. That's fun.
Yeah, but if a bitch is gonna talk about fuck me up my ass and my pussy, this I'd rather that be in my bedroom than on a record. You know what I mean? That's just me. That's me showing my age.
I think that's fair. Well, you could always pop on some headphones and just retire to your room with Megan the Stallion.
I'm gonna get. Oh, let me turn you on to somebody. And Dean Ween from the band Ween plays guitar, and they have the bass player from Ween. And I hate everybody for the last 20 years, but they have. Check out the live footage of Moist Boys with a Z. I mean, dude, the singer was obviously influenced by Iggy Pop. It's it's more like I wouldn't even say it's pop punk. I would just say it's punk. But Moist Boys, no one knows who the fuck they are, but oh, they were good. But I don't think they've done shit since then.
This is actually maybe a great segue into my rap question. At the end of every conversation, I ask for recommendations. It's inspired by something that Chino said on a podcast once, that the only reason that he exclusively would tweet out links to songs that he likes was because
Right.
he felt like that was the best thing that he could share on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So in that spirit, you've recommended Moist Boys. Any other recommendations? Can you offer me one or two more recommendations? Things, and it could be music related. It doesn't have to be music related, but
Well, you
uh,
said rap, but you didn't mean rap as far as rappers.
no, yeah, no, it's just like a rap with a W, a wrap it up question.
Not much new that I can think of.
Is there a place that we can find Little Bitch?
No,
Not the Little Bitch.
not yet. We're actually just starting out. I was surprised that I did some shameless self promotion there. I just think the name is so funny because it came about because I'm always hanging up on people, and I hung up on my drummer Pat the other day, and he texted me "little bitch," and we both called each other. Me, that's a great band name.
It is.
But let's see. I think Royal Blood is really good. At least their debut for a two-man band. The guy does vocals, plays bass, same as me, through a guitar amp and a bass. But he does it. He does it really well. But they've been around for a good 5 to 8 years now. Oh, fucking! I'm sure you dig them, Viagra Boys.
Word.
Have you heard them?
Yeah, they opened for Queens of the Stone Age, I think, this
Love
past
me some.
tour.
What's the best Queens album?
Oh, I'm kind of an is Era Vulgaris the one with
Would pick the weirdest one. Man,
the
all the guitars sound so weird. That's a good album.
yeah, that is that the yeah, Era Vulgaris. I think that's the one I like because it's got like threes and sevens, Make It With You. Yeah, I think that's my favorite.
That is a good one. I'm going with Songs for the Deaf because I'm a Mark Lanigan fanatic. Anyone that hasn't heard Mark Lanigan, when that guy died, I had never even met him. I felt like I lost a friend, dude. But it's so prolific. I mean, all his solo albums. I don't know if you're into Mark Lanigan at all or know who he is.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I think his anniversary of his death was just recently, right? Because
Yeah,
I feel like I saw a lot of posts about him
he
just
actually
recently.
he actually wrote the vocals for No One Knows, even though Josh sings it. He sings on the song for the Dead. He's the guy with the low baritone voice.
Word.
Come a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Love Dave Grohl on that beginning. The drum fills he's playing are so good. The riff, A Song for the Dead, so good.
Mr. Ming Cheng. Look out for a little bitch in a town near you. This conversation was recorded almost a year ago now. Thanks to Brian McKenna, by the way, for helping me make it happen. If I recall correctly, Ming went to see Deftones in San Francisco at that gig with System of a Down, and I hear he was pretty stoked on Fred and Lance. Very cool. Thank you, Ming. Your participation in this podcast means the world to me. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to honor your brother with you. My name is Robert Nelson. My friends call me Woody. You can find me on Instagram at Woodbruh, WOODBRUH, if you want to talk about my favorite band. Hit me up. Thank you for listening to Deftones, and thank you for listening to Change in the House of Pods.